That's the news from Lake Wobegon, where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average. Vern Sutton has this song about...
This is the Minnesota that made the cover of Time magazine in 1973. This is the image I had of Minnesota when I was growing up 1,000 miles away in Virginia, and it seemed pretty great to me. And this was a pretty amazing time. This is 2 years after Governor Wendell Anderson pushed through the Minnesota Miracle that equalized funding across school districts. This is right around the time that we created General Assistance and General Assistance Medical Care. These programs expanded welfare and medical care to the very poorest Minnesotans, even if they weren't caring for a family. These are programs that defined Minnesota for a generation. So when I took a job in Minnesota 2 years ago, I was thrilled to move here. I thought the state had it all figured out.
I moved to Minnesota from Kansas City, Missouri. And I came to Minnesota to accept a position, Director of Dance at St. Cloud State University. One of the things they told me, there's no ghetto here. All of the communities are really nice communities and clean communities. It was going to be a multicultural community that I would be living in. The community was multicultural because I came, not because it was really a multicultural community.
Minnesota's reputation for good race relations was one of the things that attracted me to the state. When I arrived in Minnesota, I thought things would be different. But I was wrong. Minnesota faces some of the worst racial disparities when it comes to health, infant mortality rates, education, criminal justice, and employment. But the problems have been with us a lot longer than we think. For every dollar that the typical white household made in 1970, the height of the good life, the typical black household made 60 cents, and members of other races made 65 cents. In 2008, this was even worse. In fact, these income gaps are worse than those in Virginia, the state where I grew up. When we listen to Minnesotans' experiences, we see that the present is very similar to the past.
I was invited to attend a deep learning session between the Minneapolis School District and the Education Equity Organization Collaborative. We were presented with the math proficiency for all students. I was alarmed by the proficiency for students of color, and in particular, black students. Only 21% of black students were proficient in math. For Hispanic kids, 74% were not proficient. 68% for American Indian kids. For white kids, the situation is reversed. 77% are proficient at math in grade 8. I was devastated to hear that my grandchildren were more than likely to fail than to succeed. What kind of jobs can we expect our children, my grandchildren, to have if they're not good at math? We can push aside thoughts of being an engineer, a pediatrician, lawyer, working at a bank, more assuredly owning our own business.
I've noticed my own family and my neighbors and friends from church, my clients as a realtor. More and more people in the suburbs are being faced with filing bankruptcy to prevent foreclosure of their homes. I see this happening where the quality of life in the suburbs is deteriorating for so many. I think people in the suburbs aren't as willing to talk about it. There's very few people I know who don't know someone who's just lost their home.
Isaiah has a name for this: the path to crisis and decline. This path has 3 elements. It involves targeted disinvestment that leads to fewer resources in communities of color, restrictive barriers that shut a disproportionate number of people of color out of opportunity, and the creation of isolated and segregated communities. Right now, people of color make up about 14% of Minnesota's population. The state demographer's office estimates that in 25 years, there'll be about 25% of the state population, and 44% of Hennepin County. People of color will make up a significantly larger part of the workforce as well.
The reality is that Minnesota is becoming more diverse, and if we continue along the path we're on, that has consequences for all of us. Among people in Minnesota who are 65 and over, 1 in 25 is a person of color. Among people who are 18 and younger, 1 in 3 is a person of color. Now consider this, only 40% of African Americans statewide graduated from high school in 2008. If the workforce is getting more diverse, but we're failing to educate a more diverse student body, our economy suffers. Employers will stop moving to Minnesota, and there will be fewer jobs for all of us.
It's often easier to complain about how things are and then wish that people in charge would fix it.
It's time to start talking about what we can do.
The path to crisis and decline is not inevitable. We have the power to choose a different path, one that fosters healthy communities for all people.
First, we need to engage in restorative investment. We need to strategically target financial resources to create sustainable lives for people who most need access to opportunity. Second, we need to open up opportunity. This means ensuring that everyone has access to well-paying jobs, schools that teach all kids, and transit systems that work for everyone. Finally, we need to grow together. This requires building deep relationships across lines of race, class, and geography.
This is prophetic work. It not only involves naming the path to decline, it also means naming a path to redemption. We are the prophets we've been waiting for, everyone participating in these house meetings. These are hopeful stories. They are initial steps on the path. But how will we know we've arrived at our destination? We have a choice to make. It's a choice about whether we should continue by ourselves down the path to crisis and decline, or whether we should create a new path together that creates healthy communities for everyone.